Hello, it's Miss Stevens here. I wanted to share with you what I did on the school development day with the teachers on Friday, and it was about how we will be rising strong together following lockdown. And I started off by asking the teachers, hands up if you've had less concentration during lockdown, if you slept more or slept less, if your eating habits changed for the better or indeed for the worst, were you drinking more than you normally would? And then we had to think about recovery and why do we need to recover? Is there anything to recover from following this pandemic? And the answer is yes. None of us have had access to our wellbeing releases during this pandemic. We weren't able to see our friends. We weren't able to see our family. We were not able to go to the gym or to our football classes, ballet classes, gymnastic classes, chess, rugby, tennis. We weren't able to go to our extracurricular activities. We weren't able to go retail shopping, and we were also finding the way that we shopped in supermarkets very different. And we certainly didn't have any access to beauty treatments, including haircuts. And this is called pandemic privilege. And for everyone's story during lockdown is very different. And I wanted the staff, and I'd like you to think about lockdown in your life and what it was like for you. Now there is a point to this and it will come later on, but what was lockdown like for you? Was it in your own home or a shared home? Did you have to move between multiple homes? Did you live elsewhere? How restricted was your lockdown versus your normal life? For some people, there's been a lot of time at home, and for some, there's not a lot has changed. Some people have still been going to work, while some of us haven't. For some people, work's been a little bit different, a lot different. Who have you lived with? Who did you spend your lockdown with? Parents, extended family, friends, families, just your partner, with your children? Were you alone? Have you kept working? More hours? Same hours? Less hours? Has your income remained the same? For some, they've saved money, but for lots of people, they've lost their jobs. They have less money overall. Have you been able to meet your family needs? Have your partners lost their jobs? How's your cognitive burden? And by that I mean, have you had to care for someone, a partner, care for your children, parents? Did you find yourself suddenly caring for a neighbour unexpectedly? Were you part of a split parent setup? Have you or a loved one suffered any physical issues, mental health issues during lockdown? And most importantly, did you feel safe in lockdown? Now, everyone's answers to those questions will be very different. And it will be different for you, different for our pupils, your children, different for our families at school, different for our community as a whole. And with that, the pandemic has brought what I call implicit bias. It's brought these to the surface, and this could be a real moment for real change. When we talk about housing security, what we're actually talking about is homelessness. And when we talk about work opportunities, what we're actually talking about is unemployment. And when we talk about income and food security, we're talking about poverty and hunger. We've adopted a language that makes it seem less horrific than what it actually is, but we need to be open and honest about the situations that we will find some of our community have been in. We need to help each other to understand what they've been through and how we can support. We are going to need to move forward together with our best efforts to both understand and not judge how we've moved through our pandemic journeys, respect each other's experiences and how it influences our current and future work and well-being together. So, what do we do at Alsford? What are we going to do? Well, recovery at Alsford is going to focus on 5 areas: routine, structure, friendship, opportunity, and freedom. Children have lost their routine. I spoke to many parents during the lockdown, and the most common words that I heard were, "My child's not sleeping." They're all over the place. As a mum myself, I know exactly what that means, and the children lost their routine. Structure has been lost. Having the pupils back in school has allowed us a chance to talk to the pupils and how their experience was and how they found it. And the most common phrase I hear is, "It was boring." It was boring. They had no structure to their day. Friendships have been lost, and it's almost as if they're mourning. My little boy, his words were, "I just want to see her face." He was mourning the loss of his best friend. Opportunities have been taken away. I spoke to a student that was doing her A-levels, and she said, "They told me I was running a marathon, and now there's not even a race." And they feel robbed, and there is that sense of you being robbed, particularly for our year sixes. And freedom was lost for many of us. And when speaking to the children, as much as they love their parents, it's really quite uncool to be with your parents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So for some children, it's going to be a real difficulty coming back into school life. And with that, I wanted to talk about the consequences that come from that. So all our pupils, parents, colleagues all have some unresolved issues from lockdown, and we've got to meet them head on and be supportive. They'll have a feeling of bereavement, a feeling of loss. They might have experienced trauma during their lockdown. Most certainly, the most common thing that I have seen, and I think we will continue to see for some time, is anxiety around the COVID situation. And with that, an attachment to where they feel the most safe. And then I want us to think about this dartboard. The anxious child is not a learning child. And in the middle of the dartboard, that represents a heightened state of anxiety. In a heightened state of anxiety, we release cortisol, and we're in a fight or flight situation. High levels of stress for many mean that we are unable to learn. With our children in mind and at the forefront of everything that we do, I wanted us to think about, so what now? What is that going to look like for us at Aylesford? So, we are calling this a recovery curriculum, and it will last for the first term. We will focus on relationships, community, metacognition, transparency, and space. Let me make some sense of that with you now. Relationships. We can't expect our pupils to return joyfully, and so many of the relationships that were thriving may now need to be invested in and restored. We need to plan for this to happen, not assume that it will happen, and we need to reach out to greet them, use the relationships we build to cushion the discomfort of returning. Community. We need to listen to their lockdown story. We must recognise that curriculum will have been based in the community for a long period of time. We need to listen to what has happened in this time, understand the needs of our community, and engage them in the transition of learning back into school. We've got some different ideas and activities of what we will be doing with the children to allow them to tell their story either through art or dance or poetry or writing. And for many of our children, they've had a very different experience. How many of our children will talk about their parent being a key worker? How many of our children will talk about the vouchers or food parcels? We need to be mindful that our communities had a very different experience, and we need to listen to them all. Transparency for all of our pupils will feel like they have lost time in learning, and we must show them how we are addressing the gaps, consulting and co-constructing with our pupils to heal this sense of loss. They might not remember, and that's okay. We will be building in them the resilience to keep on going, just as they have done through lockdown. We will be very clear on what has changed. Assemblies, they won't look the same, because we're not allowed to gather in large crowds at the moment in the hall. Singing assemblies won't be able to take place until further notice. Cleaning has become part of our curriculum, and we are cleaning at clear points in every day to make sure that we are removing any risk of any of our community getting hurt by COVID. We will be very clear again on how we teach, the expectations, the behaviour policy, corridor etiquette, and absolutely uniform expectations, because they haven't had to wear one for some time. Metacognition is in different environments, pupils will have been learning in different ways. And it is vital that we make the skills for learning in a school environment explicit to our students to re-skill and rebuild their confidence as learners. At home, they have learned one way, and they have been taught in the way that the parents felt comfortable in delivering it. Now that might not be the way that we teach in the classroom, but again, that's okay. We will unpick any misunderstandings. Parents were doing what they thought was best for their child in a very unknown situation that nobody is ever prepared for. We will be reminding children of the different ways that we learn now in school, because we're very mindful that lots of the children have been learning in a very insular way on their own. So we will teach them that when we're in school we learn in groups, or we might learn in pairs. We do retrieval, rapid recall, and we'll slowly get them back into the routines that we have here at Aylesford. The most important thing for us is space. To rediscover themselves and to find their voice on learning. It is only natural that we all work at an incredible pace to make sure this group of learners are not disadvantaged against their peers, providing opportunity and exploration alongside the intensity of our expectations. Summed up, we're going to be gentle with each other, gentle with pupils, parents. We are going to be investing heavily in mindfulness and well-being. It will be timed throughout the day, every day, for 5 weeks. We're going to try and keep our young people emotionally strong, and the best way to do that is through sports. I've learned through lockdown, listening to Barry Carpenter, who's a really good mental health professor, don't play recall sports, do new learning. It will create new neural pathways. Imitation-based games are really exciting, so mirror games, like Simon says, or teach them a brand new sport where they have to use new parts of their brain. And that will really help for children to feel more confident coming into school. This is a video, and I will be sending that link out, and it would be really lovely if you could watch this story with your children, or alone by yourself as well, because it is going to form part of our recovery curriculum. Recovery curriculum, part 1. Well-being. It will be for 15 minutes every single day for 5 weeks. It will be our assembly rota that will be delivered in class by the teachers, and it will be live streamed in by a member of staff every day. We will focus on one of the levers each week with different activities. So the first week back will be all about restoring relationships. The second week is all about community. The third week is about transparency, the fourth week metacognition, and the fifth week all about space. We will be keeping the evidence for something that I'll come to at part 3. This website up here is where the planning for each of these weeks can be found, and it is broken down into early years, Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. Part 2 of our recovery curriculum is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, a story that I would like you to watch at home. This book is about trust, and through collaboration the teachers have come up with a lovely scheme of work for each of their year groups, using this book as the stimulus. Part 3 will see all of our wellbeing work, all of the work around that book come together in a corridor display to celebrate how we supported our staff, how we celebrate our pupils and our parents to recover from this pandemic. I will also be having a film made of our journey through lockdown from the 20th of March till now, and how we as a school worked with the community, how the parents worked in partnership with us, how the pupils absolutely shone, and we will be doing a real celebration of our journey and how together we got through it, to show our resilience and how proud we are to be part of your community. I hope that has helped understand what life might be like when we return to school. If you do have any questions, please do not ever hesitate to let me know or to contact us. I really look forward to welcoming you back in September. Stay safe, enjoy your summer, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.